The unknown really is your pathway to your deepest learning, probably. One of your superpowers is being comfortable in that unknown learning space and trusting yourself that you can do it. You've done it once before. You can do it. You engage in that learning so that you can do more, so that you can serve more, support more, and be more. You have two choices. You continue on the treadmill of life, doing what the world tells you to do, doing what your job expects of you. That's a viable choice. But you have another choice where you decide, and it could be the exact same thing you're doing now, but knowing that it's in alignment with who you are
Yeah,
and what it is you want to bring about in the world. Oh, it gives you such a sense of fulfillment.
yeah.
It also supports your well-being. Once you're doing what your soul was made to do, then you're going to have success. You're going to come into the orbit of people that are in alignment and need you in the world. And that's what we were created for, I believe.
This is the last episode of our mini series Redefining Having It All. In previous episodes, we covered the Superwoman syndrome, the badge of honor behind the burnout, and also how to redefine success in your own terms. Letting go all the metrics and finding new ways to measure your success according to your own values. And today's episode is the next natural step: how to live fully and still set boundaries, which is easier said than done. We hear people say set boundaries, but how do we do that? And how do we ensure that we set boundaries to ensure that what we do is fully aligned with who we are, but that in the meantime, we don't minimize ourselves. We remain the ambitious woman, the high achievers, and we achieve the success and the impact we were meant to achieve. And so today I'm super excited because I'm joined by someone whose leadership journey is such a powerful story, such an inspiration, such an example of what it means to lead with purpose, alignment, and courage. And so help me welcome Natasha Riboy on the Stand Up podcast. Hello, Natasha. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm excited to be here. I'm very grateful to be on this podcast with you, talking all about boundaries and authenticity and purpose. That is, how we really bring our true selves into the world. So thank you for having me.
And I'm so excited about sharing your stories because in your career, you didn't pivot once, you didn't pivot twice, you did it three times. You decided to let go of a career that no longer was fulfilling without even knowing what would be your next step. And I know that for a lot of people, and especially for us women, it's hard to live a successful career, a comfortable situation, even if we feel misaligned, simply because we don't know what's next. And what if leaving that comfortable or successful career behind was a mistake, right?
Mm.
We never know. But you did it twice, three times, not twice, but three times. You have reinvented yourself so many times. So, what gave you the strength, to make such decision?
Hmm. Um, the first time I actually made the pivot, I really didn't have a choice, if I'm being honest. I was in human resources at a television station that I love dearly, CFMT, Omni Television, and I love the people, I love what I did. But I had just had my second child, and my childcare fell through. And so I tried everything I could, couldn't find someone, so I had to stay home with her, not having any idea of what I would do next, but just knew that I needed to be with my daughter. And that taught me, that I have resilience and I could pivot. From there, I stayed home with my kids for a couple years. I was really curious about how they learn. And so I did a Bachelor of Education, which led me to a career in teaching. So I learned along the way because my first pivot actually was in university because I was supposed to become a doctor. decided I didn't like labs. So I started doing a lot on campus. Ended up, recruiting for the radio station and all sorts of things. And so that's where I found human resources. After university, I went and did a certificate in HR, and that was my first pivot. That taught me that you know what you want, create a plan to get it, work the plan, and you get it. And so when I had to pivot for my kids, I knew I had that skill set that I could rely on, but I really had no idea what I would do after. I did when it was time for teaching, I pulled out that whole skill set of, okay, well, what's my plan? Work the plan to get a job in teaching, and it worked. Got a job in teaching and loved it. I was a kindergarten teacher for a number of years, loved that. But I just felt something was missing, and so I was like, you know what? This does not feel in alignment with me and what it is that I want to do in the world. And so I did a lot of soul searching, and I went back to all of the jobs that I did and all of the things that I really felt I made an impact in the world with people, and that brought me to coaching, which I didn't know existed at the time. So I found coaching, realized that there's some certifications that I could do, which again would take time and money. But I did it. I had this drive, I had this yearning, and this just belief that there's something bigger and better out there. And so I did it. I coached while I was a teacher. And then when COVID hit, I decided the world needed support because the stress level was just so great. And I gave up teaching, which in Canada is a really great career. And but I gave it up because I knew that there were people in the world that needed support. Yeah, so I did it again, and here I am, have a business that's through blessings, very, doing well and meeting wonderful people like you. Yeah, but it took a lot of work, courage, and a learning mindset, I would say. Knowing that you have to sort of kind of go in there, feel the fears of it all, learn through it, and gain skills and courage along the way, which would make you a better human and better able to serve. Yeah.
And you said it, you learn along the way. And I believe one of the main reasons that is holding a lot of people back is that they think you have to figure out like everything before you take your next step. I can recognize a lot of myself, I should say, when I listen to you, because I make the decision and I trust myself enough to know that I will figure it out. I will figure it out. I will find a way. I will learn my way out, but I will find a solution. But I believe it takes some level of clarity, self-confidence, and inner work in order to believe yourself that you can do it, you can figure it out. And what I like about your approach is that you identify the situation that was no longer fulfilling you. And you were like, okay, this is enough. I stop here and then I will figure out. And what would be one piece of advice that you would like to give women who feel like they are on the verge of quitting, of leaving, but they are scared of the unknown?
The unknown really is your pathway to your deepest learning, probably. We've been socialized to become experts, and our expertise is what we rely on to sort of fuel our success. That's how we are trained when we go to school, right? You need to know this really well to be successful. It's how, people are treated in the workplace. You have to work at an expert level to get that promotion, right? And that's how we really promote people. So we are socialized to want to become experts, right? But our world today requires agility. So we're at odds. Our past socialization is at odds with what our world needs currently. Our kids, we will have to learn how to reinvent ourselves, even in the jobs we're doing, based on the technology that's coming into the workplace. And so one of your superpowers is being comfortable in that unknown learning space and trusting yourself that you can do it. You've done it once before. You can do it. You engage in that learning so that you can do more, so that you can serve more, support more, and be more. Um, if you do feel that inkling within yourself that I'm not in alignment or I'm not working where I need to be, or working in my purpose, then don't shut it down. Just sort of explore, right? Just think a little bit about what it is you're doing, what's fulfilling, what's draining for you, right? So do a little bit of self-reflection to kind of get closer. I'm not saying you have to quit, but let that be the start of your self-reflection around, am I in the right place? Or is there change needed, right? So it starts with sort of you just allowing yourself to have those thoughts, knowing that it's normal to have those thoughts, and engaging with yourself in that thought process of exploration of what is it that you desire. Because the truth is, once you're doing what your soul was made to do, then you're going to have success. You're going to come into the orbit of people that are in alignment and need you in the world. And that's what we were created for, I believe. So don't shut it down. Know that it's really our socialization. And if you want success, we have to kind of go beyond those feelings into exploration and have a bit of courage in taking a step, whatever step that is, forward.
You said it, like you gotta trust yourself, and it requires a level of self-awareness. In your case, you decided to build a business that is aligned with your values, right? Not based on what society is expecting of you, maybe not based on what your family was expecting of you, but what your values are and what you should be expecting of yourself. And this is something that we don't teach us. That personally, I didn't know, that no one talked about, even growing up, that, okay, society, we know what society is expecting from us. We know what the family members are expecting from us. But what should we be expecting ourselves from ourselves, right? So, how did you identify your value, knowing that, okay, by aligning your offer and services, your career, let's say, but to those values will make you successful and grow in a way that is meaningful to you?
The short answer is I received coaching.
Oh, okay.
So when I decided to become a coach, I had to go through coach certification, and part of that certification is we coach each other. And so I had a coach myself, as well as I was a coach for someone else. And it's through my coach training program, as well as the coaching sessions that I underwent, I understood my values. I understood the inner thoughts that I had at the time that was holding me back. And I was able to reframe my thinking, create new mindsets to support this shift that I wanted to step into. With a shift like this, you do need mindset change. And mindset change, it's not as scary or unachievable as you may think. There's specific plans and processes that we undergo in coaching to get shifts in how you need to think about yourself, your ability to succeed, what is success for you. All of those things you can undergo within coaching. And so I went through those shifts myself in coaching, as well as I identified my values. And after I came out of that program, I knew in my heart that I could create a business anchored in my values, serving people that I care about and want to support. That's people-centered leaders, people who care about people, but are leaders in the world and who want to achieve success and who wants to have promotions and make good money and all of those things, but care about people at a foundational level. And I chose to serve those people in doing exactly that by using my values of kindness, trust, respect, and now, courage and curiosity. So it was an intentional choice along the way. And I had to learn everything that it takes to make a business. I had to learn marketing. I had to learn how to speak to those people plainly and who I am so that I attract the people that I do want to serve. And that's what I do. And so it's not easy, but it's very possible. It takes your commitment and your faith in knowing that you can do it. You just have to choose what it is you want. You have two choices. You continue on the treadmill of life, doing what the world tells you to do, doing what your job expects of you. That's a viable choice. But you have another choice where you decide, and it could be the exact same thing you're doing now, but knowing that it's in alignment with who you are
Yeah,
and what it is you want to bring about in the world. Oh, it gives you such a sense of fulfillment.
yeah,
It also supports your well-being. Once you tie your purpose, your values, who you are to what you're doing currently, it brings the feeling of suffering down,
yeah.
suffering through the long nights or suffering through those conversations, or right, it brings that down and it supports our health and well-being as well. So even if you figure out through awareness work that, oh my goodness, I'm doing exactly what I want in the exact place I want, it's still worth doing the self-reflection, because
Yeah.
at least you'll know you're doing exactly what you want to do and you chose it.
It's priceless. In your pre interview questionnaire, you said boundaries are not about disconnecting, they are about clarity. And I love that because sometimes we feel hesitant setting boundaries because we don't want to look as unapproachable or as rude, or especially um, for the individuals who like to please people, who like to be servants. But it's still important to be able to set the boundaries that are healthy for you. And I like the way that you are reframing boundaries as clarity. And so
Mhm.
what's one boundary you have had to set in your leadership journey, in your career journey, that felt uncomfortable but
Mhm.
necessary?
I think it's boundary with respect to who has access to my time, and knowing, being really purposeful in what it is that I want to accomplish and how to get there by creating those boundaries around whether it be tasks that I'm putting in my day or conversations that I'm having. I'm probably the biggest people pleaser you're going to find on the planet. As well as, yeah, I'm a servant leader. I'm here to serve humans. Um, but what I learned is, for me to do that, I need to ensure that I have enough energy. It's not just about managing our time, it's also about managing our energy. And by managing my energy, I'm able to serve more, actually. And so I'm able to sort of, through again using my values as sort of lens through which I communicate those values, but also understanding when something is in alignment or not, I'm able to have those boundaries, right? So whether it be can you engage in this sort of offering? Is that a yes or a no? It depends on what it is, when it is, who's involved. Am I serving the people that I want to be serving with that? And being able to say yes or no. I probably could do it, but should I do it, right? And so things like that, right? As well as boundaries in our personal life. Understanding that it's okay to have boundaries in both realms, and that it's a choice that you're making to show up either for yourself or for others in a fuller way. And so it's carving out intentional choices in every aspect.
It does make a lot of sense, and actually reminds me of a conversation I just had yesterday with one of my collaborators, where I identified an opportunity to bid for a contract as consultant. And the drive in me was like, okay, yes, I can apply, I can do this, I can bid for the contract. So I talked to my collaborator, we have a conversation, and then I'm like, you know, I need to be rational about the decision that I'm making and about the work that I decide to take on, especially now that I have a new addition to the family. And I was like, no, I should not do it. I shouldn't bid
Mhm.
for this contract. I shouldn't
Mhm.
take on this opportunity because it will be too much on my plate. And, even though the work itself is fully aligned with my values and what I do and what I'm passionate about, then I was able to take a step back and to think about, okay, is it reasonable? Is that something that I should do or should not do? Not can I do it, but should I do it? And I think when you
Mhm.
bring that perspective to your inner thought, the conversation you have within yourself, with yourself, it makes a big difference and it helps a lot in
Yeah.
making the right decision with ensuring that you are not overloading yourself. Also, I believe as a servant leader, it's important to make the distinction between being a servant leader and being a people pleaser.
Yes.
And I believe this is where there is a gap maybe that needs to be filled. So for the woman who feel uncomfortable saying no or guilty saying no, how can they begin to reframe that guilt into something that is more empowering?
That's a really good question. At the root of it, people pleasing, that tendency, is an inner need for your validation. So it's not as gifted as you may think. So you're doing things in the hope that people see you as a good person, see you as capable, see you as needed, whatever that need is. So it's not a free flowing gift of service or love or whatever it is you're doing. So that's the root of people pleasing. When we show up in alignment with who we are and with intentional choice in how we want to serve, we can then give freely. And so the energy within which the giving is received and given is one of purity. And that's where the growth energy lives. So the person receiving your service is going to receive it and feel that, love that's coming with it. As well as when you're giving it and you're actually filling your cup by giving. People pleasing energy is when you give it and it feels like a burden or it feels frustrating or there's an underlying, oh, I should, right? There's an underlying thing. You're feeling it, but that person's also receiving it with that. They're going to be receiving it feeling, ooh, either guilt or frustration or some energy, and they're not going to know why. But that's the difference between people pleasing and sort of really just choosing to show up for that individual and give of yourself, whether it be time, money, attention, whatever it is you're giving, but freely, right? And so that again is in our work. We receive success in our lives based on how we interact with others and what we do. And so those messages were built, as we were growing up. And it's again starting with clarity and awareness on, well, why am I giving? Is it freely or is it to receive something back, right? And so that's I think your first step in knowing that you can release the people pleasing because it's not as freely given as you think it is.
True, yeah? It is, and it's true that it's a matter of energy, your energy that you pour out when you want to please people versus the energy that you pour out and you receive when you serve people. And it's a big difference. I had never thought of it from a perspective of energy. So I really appreciate your perspective on this.
No problem. Yeah, I talk about energy all the time. Energy is that, essence of which everything happens. And it's either growth oriented energy, fulfilling, right? The good, it's energy that we know about, or it's depleting, diminishing, and sort of not supportive energy. Yeah.
Mhm. From your extensive experience now through your own personal experience, but also the leaders that you are coaching, is there like common early signs that what we are doing is no longer aligned with who we are?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, the stress levels are high, right?
Mm,
Regardless of purpose right now, just based on the world that we live in, and the marketplace. The, tech advancements ensures that we are always on, always accessible, and there's this instant access that everyone's sort of under. So there is a sort of low grade stress, not even low grade, there is a stress level that everyone's sort of experiencing. And so when we're not doing any of that in alignment or awareness with who we are and what matters to us, what type of leader we are, it takes that stress level even higher. And so people that are under a lot of stress and really aren't breathing and they sort of don't know what their next steps are, that's a moment for you to think, okay, maybe I need a pause to think about, how am I going to meet this moment in our evolution of the world of work? This feels like one of those foundational moments where it takes awareness of, okay, who am I, how do I show up here? So I think it's used to be, I don't feel fulfilled, this job, I don't like it so much, right? Those were the clues that maybe it's not in alignment. But nowadays I would say, we all sort of need to pause and think, who am I? What's my purpose? And how do I meet the world of work? So it's a time for everybody to sort of go on that journey, because that understanding of who you are and how am I going to meet this place that we are in right now, is going to be required for you to sustain the levels of engagement, the levels of connection, the level of safety that you need to create with your team to support yourselves and each other through the workplaces that we exist in. So it's, I believe it's a foundational piece of leadership training, understanding who you are, your values, your strengths, your purpose, your leadership style, your communication style, your personality, all those things are needed so that you have that foundation piece in place, and then you can stretch from there if needed.
I think it is very important to have this foundation and to have a strong foundation. My own story, I climbed the ladder, built an international career without having this foundation. And
Mm.
as a result, I got lost into seizing all opportunities that would come my way, because I thought that this is what I had to do in order to be successful and to reach the level of career I was aiming for. I have always been in a high achiever, and as high achievers, we are confident in on our capacity to achieve and succeed, but we are not so much aware of the cost. That's why,
Yes.
when I talk about redefining having told, talking about the superwoman syndrome, talking about the badge of honor, the burnout as a
Yes.
badge of honor. Oh, I'm burning out, but I have achieved this and this and that. This is so unhealthy.
Hmm.
And like, and I went through it all. All the mistakes
Mm.
a leader can make, I made
Yeah.
them. But because I didn't have this foundational base, a strong
Yeah.
foundational base, a strong self-awareness of what I should do, what I should not do, and where were my boundaries, where were my limits, right, to
Yes.
still protect myself from
Hmm.
success, from the high achieving woman, and from the expectation, my own expectation, and
Yes.
society, the workplace expectations, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, 100%. And that was as you sort of went through your career path. And so you got that awareness through time, which is brilliant. And you had the awareness to create those changes, which took courage. So, thankfully you were able to do that so that you can bring these types of conversations to others who need to hear it.
Yeah,
So,
but
quite a blessing.
I had to go through two burnouts. So don't go that far, people.
Mm,
I do not recommend it, but this is how stubborn I
no.
was, right? One burnout wasn't enough. I was like, okay, you know what? This happened to me. It's okay. I can get back on track, and I can be a high achiever, and I can continue, following the same pattern. So I didn't
Yeah.
learn my lessons the first time. The second
Mm,
time, I was like, my body. It's not even myself.
yeah.
It was my
No.
body. It was like,
Yeah.
listen, enough is enough. This is no longer what you are going to do. This is no longer how you are going to work, because you cannot sustain it. And once
Mhm,
I found myself in the ER, and
mm,
everything that followed up that burnout, I was like, wow. So I was
mhm.
stubborn in my mind. I was like, I can do it. I had all
Yeah.
the signs. We talked about the
Yep.
early signs. I had them, but I decided to ignore them. And that's another
Yes.
thing, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
then my body was like, mm-mm, enough is
Yeah.
enough. And so that was hard to go through those moments, but it was an opportunity for me to reset. And as you said, build these foundations to what
Yes.
my life and my success should
Mhm.
be.
Yes. Yeah. People don't realize a burnout is like your body physically shuts down.
Yeah.
And with each episode of it, you go deeper and it's so much harder to get out. But your brain actually, because high achieving supported your success, your brain wants you to keep doing it because that's what it knows and that's safety for it. And so it takes, again, awareness and then intentional choice and change to change that mindset around, well, what does success need to look like now?
Yeah.
Yes, working in that way got me success at some point, but what mindset change do I need now to support myself in the world that I exist in now? So
Yeah.
I'm really sorry that you went through that twice. Um, but thank you for the courage and sharing with us. Yeah, that's a lot. That's huge. Good for you.
Thank you. And after my second burnout, actually, I had a baby. So I got pregnant and I had a baby. So it was a full reset for
That
me.
is a full reset.
2 degrees. A question that I like to ask all my guests on this podcast is, what would you like to be remembered for? A lot of the work that we do is about building a legacy, right? Making an impact in people's lives and building a legacy. So, what would you like to be remembered for?
Hmm. I would like to be remembered for serving people in creating safety within their own bodies through nervous system regulation
Wow,
so that
that's
they
very
can,
specific.
yes, it is very specific, so that they can get the clarity to create the goals that they want and achieve that in their lives, right?
But
So we are. all sort of socialized to do what the world wants from us.
Yeah,
And I would like to help people realize that we can start from within. But
yeah,
to do that, we need to first sort of regulate and create possibilities that matter to who we are and create plans and goals to achieve it. So, if I was to say it in one statement, you can achieve whatever it is you desire.
yeah. And you
And
would be the person or one of the person helping people make that realization.
I
and
pray,
and
I
you're
pray,
you're
yeah.
you're already doing it, and it's beautiful. I think, from this conversation, and we are already coming to the end of it. And I think we could talk about this topic for hours. um, you don't have to shrink to be liked. You can be your full self and being appreciated by the right people and attract the right people in your life. And you don't have to burn out to be seen, right? You can be yourself and still be seen by the right people who will be attracted to your values, your energy, your vibe. And I believe that as women, we are allowed, and we should allow ourselves to take up space, right? And to create a space where we can expand our wings, but also rest in it. And I feel there is, especially for us high achievers, there is this duality where if you create a space for you to expand, this is not a space where you can rest. And actually, that should be both.
Yes. But it both are necessary,
They
right?
are.
One fuels the other. And that's really what I would love everyone to know is those periods of rest and reset are needed to fuel growth.
Yeah.
So you can't have one without the other. So by just doing and constantly doing, you're not allowing your full capabilities to actually come to light.
Yeah.
So it's coming to terms with what is your rest and reset sort of strategies, tools that you have, people in your life, that you can, use on, whether it be in a 5 minutes time that you have, or a night or a weekend or longer, right? So eh, we have resourced ourselves as energy. We only have finite energy and we have finite time on this planet. And so we are used to sort of understanding what, based on time, how much, scheduling time, but we don't think of, you know, our energy and how are we going to resource ourselves. So for every output, what's the input that you're going to put in, right? And I tell my clients, when you think about energy, you drain energy in different ways, whether it be technology, people, or things that you do. And so understanding those drains for you is your step one, but also understanding those energy filling activities and people that you can engage in. And so you need to ensure that your schedule has both those energy draining, obviously, but also those energy filling activities and people, so that you are, you know, resourcing yourself to show up in the world and do more, and you'll have more success, you'll have more connection, you'll have more joy, you'll have more peace, you'll have more health when you think in those terms, and you're the only one that can do that for you.
And I think this is the perfect way to end that episode. Thank you so much, Natasha. That was a
No
wonderful
problem.
conversation, a lot of insights. I hope for those of you listening, you feel inspired by the conversation. And most importantly, you realize that it doesn't have to be overwhelming. It doesn't have to be this big, huge step. This is something that you can do little by little every day, like at your own pace. And if you are ready to take this reflection deeper, I have created a free resource just for you, the Standout Journal, a 4-week journey to impact, legacy, and wellness, which is designed to help you define what success truly means to you, reclaim your energy and focus, build habits aligned with who you are, and lead with clarity. So you get it complimentary when you sign up for the Stand Up newsletter, and you get access to exclusive resources. So thank you so much, Natasha, once again. For the people who would be interested in learning more about how you can help them unleash their full potential and set boundaries as leaders, how can they contact you?
I'm on LinkedIn. You can check me out on LinkedIn, Natasha Revoy, or my website. And there's a link to my booking page. You get, a free discovery call if you book through the website. And I think you're going to have those available to. It's just natasharevoycoaching.com, but there's an I in Natasha, so it's NATAISHAREVOYCOACHING.com. But I think you're going to have it available for them.
Exactly. All the information about Natasha and her business and how she can help you will be available in the episode description. So thank you so much, Natasha. That's all for us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate being here.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. Your feedback helps us to continue grow and bring more valuable content. Until next time, bye.